Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Sebastian Fitness Solutions.
Each person's ultimate goal and motivation to train is different. Some train to be the strongest they can possibly be. Some train to improve sports and athletic performance. And some train just to look sexy naked. Whatever your goal is, it's great as long as it gets you in the gym and training. However, oftentimes you'll find people getting so married to that one goal of theirs that they tend to forget or sometimes even deliberately ignore the other benefits they can get from their efforts. Some going even as far as completely compromising on one to get another. And this is the case in the fitness community when it comes to training for strength and training for aesthetics. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you guys about why training for strength and aesthetics should go hand in hand, especially if you're a drug-free lifter. Coming right up. What is up, everybody? This is Sebastian from Sebastian Fitness Solutions, coming to you from the wonderful facility at YFC IC Colony in Borivali. There is often a false dichotomy between training for strength and training for aesthetics. It's the classic powerlifter versus bodybuilder argument. And it happens for good reason. Because when most people think of powerlifters, this is an example of what comes to their mind. And as for bodybuilders, so if you look at this and you see, most people automatically make the connection that if you want to be as strong as a powerlifter, you've probably got to be as big and huge and fat like all the top powerlifters are. On the other hand, if you want to be aesthetic and you want to get jacked, you want to build a lot of muscle, then you've probably got to do this bodybuilding style training where it doesn't matter how much weights you lift, but rather how you feel the muscle. Now, aside from the fact that these two are extreme examples of their respective sports, what you must understand is what they do and what they are is not applicable to you, especially if you're a drug-free lifter. In today's video, I'm going to discuss why, if you want to be the most aesthetic version of yourself, you've got to focus on becoming strong. And even if all you care about is strength, you've still got to focus on muscle gain and becoming overall aesthetic. And I'm going to do it discussing both from a physiological standpoint as well as a philosophical standpoint. Alright, so let's start off by looking at the physiological side of things first. Please understand that for a drug-free athlete, strength and size are inseparable. When you look at your favorite bodybuilders or even your favorite fitness models with their great physiques, but you see them lifting pansy-ass weights in their training, please understand that there's a lot more at play here than their training alone. The use of steroids and other drugs can literally make you build muscle with zero training. And yes, this has been proven by research. There's a study out there that has compared or given subjects 600 milligrams of testosterone, and the group that took the drug and didn't train gained more muscle than the group that trained but didn't take the steroid or didn't take testosterone. And again, that's with no training. And again, if you know anything about the drug style that is being used by even recreational bodybuilders these days, much less the pros, then you know that they use a lot more than just testosterone. So not even imagine what the pros use and whatnot. So if these guys can build muscle with literally zero training, more muscle than you and I could ever build, then even the crappiest form of training, even the most pathetic, even the most inefficient, ineffective, far from optimal training will get them way better results than you and I could ever get. So that doesn't mean that we follow exactly what they do. Now again, if you're a drug-free lifter and you want to gain the most possible muscle, you have to lift some really heavy weights. And this is to address the most important mechanism that drives muscle hypertrophy, and that is mechanical tension. Now, of course, there are other factors as well, other mechanisms that drive muscle hypertrophy too, and you could still build muscle lifting light weights as well. But number one, those other mechanisms by themselves aren't really as significant as mechanical tension. And number two, just because something works and you end up building some muscle doesn't mean it's the most optimal thing that you could have done. It's not only important to know what works, because that's not the only thing that matters here. What our objective ultimately is to find out what works the best. So keeping that in mind, ultimately, if you want to really build some and pack on some real serious muscle, you want to be lifting some heavy ass weights. Now, by the way, if you haven't watched that video of mine already, which is the 3 mechanisms of muscle hypertrophy that drive muscle hypertrophy, I really recommend that you watch that to understand about this more in detail. You can click that little corner right there to watch it, but do it after this video. Finish watching this one and then go to that one, right? But long story short, if you want to make some serious gains, you've got to lift some heavy weights because that is what stimulates the maximum amount of muscle gain. But more importantly, lifting some heavy weights and building strength, getting stronger, has a compounding effect on your muscle gains because the stronger you get, the heavier and harder you can train in the long run as time passes, and that overall has a compounding effect on how much stimulus you give your muscles and thereby how much gains you can make over a long period of time. So ultimately, if aesthetics is your goal, you want to get strong, period. Now on the flip side, we've got guys who just care about getting strong. Now in that case, why should you care about getting aesthetic as well? Or more appropriately, why should you care about building the most amount of muscle and having the least amount of body fat? Because ultimately, that's what will get you aesthetic. Well, let's break that down for a second. Let's look at muscle building first. All factors considered equal, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, period. Now, of course, there are ways to get strong without necessarily building muscle, especially if you optimize your CNS to do so by improving neural efficiency, by improving rate coding, by improving your overall general technique. But it works up to a certain point only. Beyond a certain point, you need more raw contractile muscle fibers to generate more force and to get overall stronger. So yes, you need to build more muscle, and if you are already doing all the stuff you can to improve your CNS efficiency or maximize that, then packing on some more muscle is what will get you to break your PRs and get stronger. On the other hand, you've got less body fat. Why? Why drop it? Well, again, this ties into the concept of relative strength. If you've got 2 guys who are both lifting the same amount of really heavy weight, but one is significantly lighter than the other, then it's the lighter one who is stronger than the heavier one because he, again, has overall less body weight and he's moving more weight with that. That means he's stronger for his body weight. Now, again, that fat that's on you is dead weight. It has no functional carryover into improving performance. It's not like muscle where you've got more weight, but then that also allows for contractile tissue that makes you stronger. No, fat is just dead weight, and dropping that dead weight off you will just overall, but again, not necessarily impact performance as much or impact your strength as much. However, it will make you more relatively stronger. And also as a powerlifter, if you're taking the example of a powerlifter who tests his strength on a competitive level, being at a lighter body weight, by not losing muscle but by losing fat, puts him at a competitive advantage because even if somebody ties his old total, he's going to end up winning it because he's at a lighter body weight, you know? And especially if that's fat, then he stands to lose the least amount in terms of performance because he's retaining muscle, but he's also getting that advantage of being lighter because of less body fat. So that's why it's important. Another issue that's prevalent in this strength camp, you know, is this whole association of training for strength with the sport of powerlifting. And to the point where they think, okay, if I want to be strong, all they care about are those 3 powerlifting movements, the squat, the bench, the deadlift. Well, unless you're a competitive powerlifter and you're competing for the sport, that's not what training for strength is about. You know, training for strength is a lot more comprehensive than just those 3 movements. And restricting yourself only to care about performance in those 3 movements, especially if you're not a competitive powerlifter as such, is being foolish and is really not the way to go. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot. Because when it comes to looking at strength, and again, strength is measured across various parameters, across various functions and movements. If you look at just the 3 basic powerlifting movements of squat, bench, and deadlift, it doesn't address all of them. For example, there's horizontal pulling strength, which is addressed by rowing. There's vertical pulling strength, which is addressed by pull-ups. There's the strength of pressing weights above your head, overhead pressing, which is again addressed by overhead presses. So these things are not really trained by these 3 powerlifting movements, but they're also important aspects to strength. Then there's also the side of things like lunges and step-ups, which train your strength, not just absolute strength in general, but also across dynamic movements. And then again, when looking at training for strength, you've got to understand that training for strength has to be from a more complete and comprehensive perspective. If you want to get strong, you can't leave these glaring weak links in your body that otherwise don't really add to much functional performance and functional carryover. For example, if you're doing squats, yes, you're working your glutes, you're working your legs, you're getting strong overall that way. However, Incorporating a single-legged movement like a lunge or a step up is also extremely valuable because not only does it train the same set of muscles that the squat does, but also trains muscles like the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus better because it trains it hard to work on pelvic stability. So not only does that carry over into absolute strength of your glutes and a complete picture, not just the gluteus maximus, but also the smaller muscles within, but it also trains you to be strong in an unstable position to work on functional movements and functional stability. So training for strength in general, again as I'm saying here, has a lot more involved than just those 3 basic powerlifting movements. And in such a way, having a strength only or a powerlifting only mentality can be detrimental to you. In something like this, having a bodybuilding mentality, I don't like to call it that, but think of it that way, in the sense where you're looking at different exercise variations, not for the sake of creating variations, mind you, not to train muscles in different angles, no. It's to get the most possible functional benefit that you can get by incorporating these different movements that train strength across different movement patterns and or have some valid benefit in terms of building strength for these key weakness kind of areas, like if you're working on the rotator cuff group or you're working on your glutes for pelvic stability. All these factors have a lot of carryover into day-to-day life or even like especially into sports. So training for strength from that perspective and kind of incorporating this, I won't really call it aesthetics training here, but again, bodybuilding style training where you attract the body from different exercises and different muscle groups has a very important carryover and benefit here. And yes, some powerlifters do that from an accessory point of view, like they think, okay, my focus is on the first big 3 and the rest of the accessories. Again, that makes a big difference too. Don't treat them as accessory lifts, treat them as independent lifts that have their own place. Okay? If you're a powerlifter, sure, you'll be focusing on those 3 movements. And even then you need to do these to make sure that you are injury free and your body is balanced and proportional. But especially if you're not, then why the hell are you limiting yourself to those 3 movements? You should be looking at this from a complete picture, complete perspective, bodybuilding mentality if you want to call it, but do it from the perspective of getting strong overall. So it has its own value, it has its own place. Now, these are looking at things from a physiological side of things. It's an argument that goes both ways. So ultimately, if you can see that yes, there's a case for both parties or both, if there's an aesthetic camp to train for strength and the strength camp to train for aesthetics as well, both have their own physiological benefits. But there's another thing I want to talk to you guys about, and that is the philosophical side of things. Because again, philosophy matters too. So what's my philosophical argument for this, especially with aesthetics and function and strength? Well, I'd like to quote Louis Henry Sullivan, who was an American architect and called as the father of skyscrapers. He once said that form follows function. And what that means is everything that you see out there, the form of an object, must have its purpose, must serve a purpose, it must serve a particular function. So whether in this concept extends beyond just architecture, design and engineering, it moves on even to nature. And when you look at something like a cheetah and the way it's built, it's not built that way because it wants to be the slender, slim model of a wildcat family. No. It's that way, it's built that way so you can achieve those insane top speeds that it gets to so it can go and catch its prey. And everything has its purpose. So you, being this aesthetic, strong Greek god looking like physique, why on earth would you not want to be as strong as you look? To me, it doesn't make any sense. By myself, forget about anybody else and how they perceive me, just in my own knowledge, I would never want to look strong without and then not be able to be or not be that strong actually. The whole concept is weird to me. But if you think from the perspective of what you're projecting to others as well, why would you want to project this look or this weakness if you look that way? It just looks odd, looks weird, looks funny. Why would you, basically my question is, why would you want to have a body or an engine or rather a car that looks like a Ferrari but runs like a moped? It doesn't make any sense. So I know that some people may just not connect with this, but I think, I hope a few of you do, because sometimes things don't make sense. If you look at a really good superbike with these thin cycle tires, it just wouldn't make sense. It just ruins the look of everything. Okay, and probably that's the whole big upper body, small lower body argument, I guess. I'm tying two different things here. But the point is, it just doesn't add up. So from that point itself, within your own philosophy or in the philosophy that you want to project to others with the lifestyle that you're leading and the physique that you're making, you want to make a statement. And that statement should be, yes, I am as fit, functional and strong as I look. And for that very reason itself, if not for anything else, build a strong functional physique more than just a model aesthetic one. And same goes for strength. If you're a strength athlete and you're really strong, why do you want to look like a bloated oaf? It just ruins the whole thing for everybody. If you love strength and you want to preach and promote strength, because a lot of guys who follow this lifestyle are very passionate about it. We train and we want to tell others, listen, there's so much fun in training. It's so great. Well, then you're projecting something way too off. You're turning people off from, training for strength, because you give them an argument saying, wait a minute, if he's lifting those heavy ass weights and he looks like that, I don't want to look like that, maybe I shouldn't know what he's following. However, if you want to be responsible, if you want to think, you know what, I want to bring more positive attention to my sport. I want more people to feel enthusiastic and encouraged to train. I want people to realize the benefits of strength training. Be as aesthetic that we know you can be. Powerlifters, when they cut down, we can see how immensely aesthetic they look. All they got to do is just diet down properly, eat well, and sometimes do what they consider as accessory movements, and they look just as well, if not better than most bodybuilders, because that's what a really good, strong physique would do. So live that lifestyle so you can encourage others to do so. You can give a positive impression to your own lifestyle and training for strength, so people can understand this connection even better, and don't look at this as a false dichotomy. All right? So there you go. Those are my arguments for why strength training or training for strength and training for aesthetics go hand in hand, both from a physiological standpoint. So why, from a physiological standpoint, even if you care for aesthetics or strength, you should be focusing on the other goal too, because there's a lot to take away from it. And if nothing else, if not that, then at least from a philosophical standpoint, there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that for for your own knowledge, for your own satisfaction, and for what you're projecting out there to the world, right? So I really hope that this video has been helpful and has helped change your perspective. And if it has, don't forget to give this a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, click that subscribe button below. Go ahead, click it. And share this video with anybody else you think could help with this shift in perspective, and let's help promote this idea that no, there's no such thing as strength training or bodybuilding training. Let's bring them together. Let's make the most, let's get the best of both worlds, and let's be as aesthetic and as strong as we all can possibly be, right? Thanks for watching, guys. That's all I have for you today, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing. Hey, thank you for watching that video. Don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. Also, head over to the description box below for a link to download my free ebook, The 9 Habits to Successfully Build Muscle. Go ahead and grab it. And lastly, to watch another video, click right over here.